into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, all you Rowdies fans out there. This is James Knowles coming to you with RBLR Sports and specifically the RBLR Rowdies show. I am here today to discuss a game this past weekend. Rowdies were away to Atlanta United, but you know who isn't away anymore? It's our very own Leo Santos. He is back. Leo, tell everybody how are you doing? How was your vacation? And did you get a chance to see the game?
First of all, I'm doing really great. It's really great to be back. My vacation was amazing. When you take a vacation, you never want to come back, but that time over in Mexico was up, and it wasn't a sad feeling. I was actually kind of excited to get back, mainly because yes, I did watch the games over there. I don't know why. Usually ESPN Plus isn't available, in other countries, but for some reason it was working for me, so I was watching it. So thankfully I didn't miss anything, and I'm also thankful for the Rowdies social media for posting up the goals for whatever I missed. But yeah, watching the games, I had the habit of obviously talking about the games with you, James, the Monday, where we record a podcast. So now that it's we're back here, we're talking about the game against Atlanta United. It's great to be back. Thank you, James.
Yeah, well, we are obviously very happy to have you back, and we have a game to get into, so let us go ahead and do that. Like I said, the Rowdies were away this past Saturday night to Atlanta United 2, Atlanta United being the MLS team and 2 being their USL Championship reserve team, if you want to look at it that way. It was a 2-0 win for the Rowdies. Sebastian Gwenzotti got both of the goals. He scored a brace for us, and I believe with that final score, that means that our guest host, Chris, actually got the correct score, and I will have our producer check on that. I'm pretty sure that it was actually on our Twitter feed that he had got the right prediction, and yet again I sail away into the sunset with nothing. So good for our guest host, but not good for me at this point. We are going to have to get into the rest of the game, though, because it wasn't just predictions, obviously. Our starting lineup for this game away was Jan Ekra up front. He was in a more advanced role, starting alongside Sebastian Gwenzotti and Steven Dos Santos up top. Leo Fernandez was the left wing back. Lawrence Wyke and Lewis Hilton were the 2 central midfielders, and Sebastian Dalgard was the right wing back. And then we move into our solid back line, the never-changing Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, Jordan Scarlett, and Evan Loro, and that is how we got started.
Yeah, it is. And you talk about Jan Ekra. When I first looked at this lineup, the first thing that stood out to me was like, wow, you usually see Jan Ekra playing that center position, but now he's more in he's higher up the field now. He's definitely pairing along with Gwenzotti and Dos Santos, and that's something that stood out to me. And like you said, James, it's the same defensive unit as we've seen the entire season. Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, Jordan Scarlett, and I'm really, really liking this lineup. Sometimes we see the usual lineup. Maybe we'll see Dalgard, switch with either like Oweki or Connor Antley. That position right there has kind of changed or varied past games or so. But I think Neil Collins has finally found a winning solution, and something that we've noticed for past 7-8 games that we've won.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was actually going to mention, similar to what you said, that, Jan Ekra being in this higher position, I've loved it. The first game that I really noticed it coming to the fore was against Charlotte Independence. And if anybody remembers from that game, we played against Christian Fuchs, a former EPL player who actually won the league with Leicester City. He's obviously, like I said at the time, a good player with a very good pedigree. It's amazing when, players like that will come and play in the USL Championship. But what's even more amazing is that Jan Ekra, when he came onto the field, put Christian Fuchs in his back pocket, and he never let him out. I think since then, it's just been absolutely top class performances in that specific role that he has played back at the end of August. And that was our game against them. And August 28th, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins since then, with Jan Ekra reprising this role in most of the games over that time, and it definitely, it came into play very early on. Although the play that actually came up for us started with Leo Fernandez over on the left wing side, and from there he broke free. He was able to get the ball across. It kind of bounced around a little bit. Ultimately, when Wyke had it, he played it in, and the goalkeeper, someone who I spoke up for last week, Rocco Rios Novo, he decided that, like many players, if I hype them up, they have to do poorly, or if I do the opposite, then they have to play very well. So unfortunately, for him, Rocco Rios Novo juggled the ball a little bit, and it bounced off the post, and it came to Sebastian Gwenzotti, who was right there to put it in, and the Rowdies went up 1-0 just 2 minutes into the game.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned how, if you hype someone up, they have a bad game. You talk down on someone, they have a great game. I seem to have that same effect talking about certain players. So you're not alone on that one, James. But speaking about Leo Fernandez on that goal right there, I think once he noticed that he attracted two players from Atlanta United from him, instead of attempting to beat him, attempting to beat both of the players at the same time was going to be a challenge for Leo Fernandez. But I seen that, he turned his head over his shoulder, and he seen that there were two players on him, so when you do that in the opponent's box, you already know that there's going to be plenty of space for one of your players to run in. And that's exactly what he did. He looked over his shoulder. Obviously it wasn't the best of passes, but it eventually ended up to the feet of Lawrence Wyke, who just dribbled it forward. And although the cross wasn't the best cross, like you said, again, Seba just showing that instinct, number 9, the instinct striker position, always being at the right place at the right time. And like you said, it put the Rowdies up really, really early. And one thing I do want to mention is how the Rowdies approach this game, because I think you will agree with me when I say this, James, that if Neil Collins and his team wanted to, they could have easily been the dominant side that gets the possession, that passes the ball left and right, doesn't let Atlanta touch the ball that much. But I think Collins took the safer and smarter route of, let's let this inexperienced Atlanta United team, this very young team, let's let them with the ball, and we'll make it difficult for them to do something with that possession. And before we even get the goal, we seen that someone from the back line, a player from the back line in Atlanta, really had no option, because every single pass he was trying to give was, every single player was guarded by a Rowdies player. So he instead tried to do a long ball, which fell to nobody but besides Forrest Lasso, who's always going to win
exactly.
that. Then that's where the goal starts. You give Atlanta no options. So what option do they have? They give the ball away, and then Rowdies, with the form they're in, with the players they have, they're able to really create dangerous chances in less than 30 seconds. That's just how good they are right now.
Yeah, and you bring up an important point there. I noted in the first 10, 15 minutes or so, Lewis Hilton actually wasn't that involved over that period, and it wasn't necessarily an issue, but the reason was that there were lots of balls that were played out wide, or if they weren't going up the wings, then it was a lot of balls that were over the top, just like the one that you mentioned that Forrest Lasso obviously won. He's 6'5", and nothing against any of the players for Atlanta United, but their tallest player, Jackson Conway, their tallest attacker, I should say, not their tallest player, but their tallest attacking player, Jackson Conway, was on the bench. So if most of the balls that Atlanta has to play are over the top, then obviously someone as big as Forrest Scarlett, someone as good in the air, Forrest Lasso. I was going to say Forrest Lasso, and then someone as good in the air as Jordan Scarlett. They're going to win those headers all day. And the reason that we saw that all of those long balls were going up to our defenders' heads, or if they were going down the wings because they really didn't have that many options, it's because the Rowdies' press was so good, and that starts from the players up top, who are Duba, Seba, and Jan Ekra, as we had just mentioned. Jan Ekra was doing very well to play that role that he has been doing of just pressuring people like he did against Christian Fuchs, and Sebastian Gwenzotti and Duba are also very good at this. I was on the pregame press conference last Thursday talking with Neil Collins and Sebastian Dalgard. Sebastian Dalgard the guest player for the press conference this past week had mentioned, a question that I often ask players when I'm getting more information on their background is who was the best player you've ever played with, because, you get some interesting answers. Jan Ekras was actually Karim Benzema, which I think is pretty cool. But Sebastian Dalgard, he mentioned that he's played with so many guys, he didn't necessarily have someone who stands out to the same level as Karim Benzema. What he mentioned to me is that it's players like Sebastian Gwenzotti and Jan Ekra who just have so much experience. And not only do they have so much experience, but at this level of the game, and even in what is an advanced age within the soccer community, they still show up to practice every day and they give 100%. He said they are working their tails off every game. And you could see it not just in this game, but in all the games before it. And it just pays off when you can see how much it affects the way Atlanta can play. And ultimately, if all they have are those long balls, as I said, we're going to eat that up all day. And so we did. And it ultimately fell to Leo Fernandez, who found Lawrence Weick and put it on a platter for Sebastian Gwenzotti to score. Yeah. So those are all consequences of the way that we like to play. And it's just really good to see it all work out. We don't have to have possession, like you said, but we also could if it ultimately needed to be the case. In this game, we didn't even need that.
Yeah. I know we're bragging a lot about Jan Ekra, but it's rightfully so. When I seen him play that position, ever since, like you said, Neil Collins has decided to put him higher up in the field whenever, and I quote you, James, when you say that he put Christian Fuchs in his back pocket, because he really did. But ever since then, he just, when I watch him play, he's so confident at the ball at his feet. He's not scared to take people on. He might not be the best dribbler with the ball, but he's certainly one of the most people I see who's really, really confident, trying to take players on, trying to create chances. Before with the Rowdies or any other team he's been with, we've seen that he's typically a center mid who just, likes to play calm, doesn't really, you wouldn't really think of him as like a winger or number 10, but he's doing that right now with the Rowdies, and it's working perfectly for, his team and for his coach. And you can just see that he's also having fun playing out there. He wants the ball, he wants to attack, he wants to open space. And when you have a player like that, it's going to make it difficult for a team, especially like Atlanta United, as we mentioned before, who's inexperienced. They're players who are still taking certain steps to get to where they want to be, hopefully, in their careers. But, when you have that kind of team against a Rowdies team who, has experience, has people who know the league, who not arguably, they are the best team right now in USL, it's going to hurt you. And, yeah, you can have all the possession you want, but if you have a team like the Rowdies, who only needs, like I said, less than 30 seconds, as we've seen with that second goal, where it starts off with a throw-in, and Lewis Hillman has his back to goal. And what does Atlanta United do? They get 3 players on 1 player who has their back to goal. And once you do that, you leave so much space. And, if you're going to do that, at least win the ball if you're Atlanta United, but you don't even win the ball. You let Lewis Hillman, turn around easily, play a ball through Steven Dos Santos. He plays it across to Sebastian Gwenzotti. He's not missing from that close, but that's why I said that, when you play a team like the Rowdies and you have possession, you better be smart with that possession, because if you do some silly mistakes like that, as we've seen in this game, the Rowdies, they will punish you, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. And ultimately, it doesn't take all the effort that we need against certain teams at certain times. This Atlanta game in particular, we had 66%, or excuse me, they had 66% possession, and we had 33% possession in the first half. And ultimately, even with that huge disparity in the possession, we still led them in shots 8-3. And ultimately, out of those 8 shots, we got 2 goals. So when you look at all of those different things, we have this many shots. Not only do we have the shots, we also have the goals. Obviously, the Rowdies are doing, very well in terms of their form, but they're also doing, their execution in the form. But it's also the way that they play that allows them to get into these positions, and that's what you really like. Ultimately, the possession was just about the same towards the end. It was 64-36. And you see in the second half, there was just, essentially mostly Rowdies' domination of the chances there. And, they don't allow Atlanta, as much as they did have that possession, to really put themselves into good positions. And that also comes down to the way that we play and the ways that we try to break up their possession. which we did well all game. Now, Jordan Scarlett and Forrest Lasso are two players that we highlighted earlier for their heading abilities, and Forrest Lasso definitely did do that for the first goal, but I did want to highlight Jordan Scarlett's play in this past game. I think that Jordan Scarlett was extremely good on the defensive side, and he was mopping everything up at the back. When Atlanta tried to play this ball over the top, he was there. When Atlanta tried to play this guy down the wing, he was there. And when Atlanta tried to get a ball to a player like Darwin Mateus, who had a couple of good moments for them, I thought that he was looking kind of dangerous. Ultimately, it was very frequently Jordan Scarlett who was there to stop him on the dribble. So I really liked that he showed himself in such a good way this past game. And in particular, I like that he did that because Robbie Mertz was a very good player for the Atlanta team. He was their left winger, or, as close to a left wing, I should say, as they ultimately got. He was deeper than necessarily a winger would play. But he was looking very good. Ultimately, though, like everyone else, he found it impossible to get past Jordan Scarlett. And I might have considered him for the man of the match, if not for a bad yellow card that he took in the second half. Outside of that, I thought he was spotless. And then the other thing was just notice that Sebastian Dalgard, true to his form in the last several games, absolutely awesome on the dribble. There were several times that he was going down the right wing and he would beat one or two players. He would even add in some flash moves and he would make some people look a little silly. And then ultimately, when he cut it back, I believe that was the first one when it went. The first one was right after the halftime break, and he earned a free kick that ultimately went into Seba's head and barely went wide. So we nearly got a goal off of that one. And then later on, he pulled it back and he found Lawrence White, if I'm not mistaken. And all of that play led to another very good chance. So these are all, just good things to notice in the game, that you see all these players playing up to such a high level. And I think that they're just feeding off each other, essentially.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I just want to branch off on a couple of things you said. You mentioned how good the wingers for Atlanta were. It was just unfortunate they play against a defense that's in really, really great form right now. And also that, the Rowdies were good defensively. They cut out all passes. And I think that's, we need to give credit. You already mentioned one of those players, Sebastian Dalgard. Yeah, he's very nice with his dribbles. He shows flashes with his feet, with his skill and stuff like that. But also Leo Fernandez, both of these players not only were they good offensively, but they did the part defensively too. They were exactly where they needed to be. They didn't leave too many people open as a wingback positions, because we know these players, they would prefer to attack rather than defend. But they were concentrated, they were focused, they were disciplined in doing the role, doing their defensive duties. That's exactly what they did. During this game, I've seen how often Leo Fernandez and Sebastian Dalgard were close to their mans, were quick to cut out passes, were quick to impact the team in a defensive way. And I just give a lot of credit to both of these players because, like you said, Dalgard, he's known for his dribbles, he's known for his skills, he's known for his crosses. He's really good. He's been doing really good on the right wing side, and the same because you could say for Leo Fernandez on the left wing side. So credit to both of these players for putting in a good defensive show against Atlanta United, and it just shows, like you said, that every player is feeding off each other's confidence at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for the second half, the play, like I said, it was more so the Rowdies allowed them to have the possession and didn't allow them to have the chances. It was similar to the first half, except for we did not have the same finishing on the chances. We did have a couple of good chances, similar to the one in at the end of the first half, where Lewis Hilton had shielded with his back to goal. As you had mentioned, 3 players on him, and ultimately opens a ton of space so that Steven Dos Santos can cross it in for Seba. But there were a couple of other ones in the second half, to get back to that, where I thought they had, very good chances ultimately that, the finishing wasn't quite there, and that's unfortunate. But as we all know, the game ended 2-0, so it really wasn't too big of a deal in the end. Hopefully you do get to see some more finishing, maybe along the lines of the game against the New York Red Bulls previously. And I know that was an outlier, as our guest host, Chris, noted for everybody at the time. But, that's what happens when every one of those chances that you get, and the player who is on the end of them has his finishing boots on and puts them away. Sometimes it does happen. Obviously, in this game, it did not, but it was good to see at least that we were still getting those. And both teams did also have a penalty shout. I think that the Rowdies was a little bit better than the Atlanta one, but what did you think about that one, Leo? I thought that the penalty shout for Atlanta was pretty poor. I thought that was a dive.
Yeah, I mean, you could see a little bit of pulling the share from Leo Fernandez, but I think you have it here where you said that it might have been a little bit harsh to give it, or it's a weak penalty. I feel like if the referee did give it, obviously I would complain, but there is a little pull on the shirt. But ultimately, I feel like the defender was looking for it. Once he realized he wasn't going to get to the ball, I think that's when he realized, let me go to the ground, see what happens. So for that reason, I wouldn't have caught it as a penalty.
Yeah, that was about my thought process. And then when the Rowdies had their penalty shout, ultimately that was just cleared away, and we were able to get it and cross it back. So in the end, we did get a chance out of it. It wasn't clear cut as a penalty, of course, but like I said, it was good to see that we were getting those chances even in the second half when we might have taken our foot off the gas pedal a little bit. So that about wraps up the game for us, and most of the analysis that we will get into for that specifically. But obviously, we do have questions, and that will get into some analysis as well. So we will move into those now. And I just want to start off here with this one. Leo, you've been away for a little bit, but you've come back and you see that the Rowdies are still capable of winning, obviously. And not only that, all along this streak, we have had clean sheets. So I got to ask you, how long do you think that this can go on?
I say it could go on for, and I may be biased because we cover the Rowdies, but I do think it could go on for majority for the rest of the season. Because I'm looking at the schedule right now, and really the tough teams that may get a go on us is Miami FC and Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Maybe Charleston. We have some trouble against them. Maybe Hartford, but I don't really see that with the way the defense is playing right now. So I would say either Pittsburgh or Miami maybe could get a go on us. So I say for the next 3 games, for sure, we could keep clean sheets. After that, it might get a little bit tricky because, although it's all fun right now, I hate to say it, but it will eventually come to an end. If it doesn't, I hope the Rowdies prove me wrong on that. But I would say for at least another 3 games. And, depending how to play against, tougher opponents like Pittsburgh or Miami FC, who both teams are in the top 4 of the Atlantic Division, I would say at least three more games. Yeah. And if the defensive unit stays fit, no injuries or anything like that, possibly longer than 3 games, but at least 3 games. Yeah.
I really like sticking your neck out like that at saying at least 3 games. That's really good. Yeah. So if anyone is unaware, I do want to go over the streak before we move on. The Rowdies have 8 clean sheets in a row. This goes all the way back to August 13th. We beat Hartford 1-0. Then we drew away to Pittsburgh 0-0. Then we won away to Loudoun United 2-0, at home over Charlotte 2-0, at home over Oakland 3-0, away to Charleston 1-0. We beat the New York Red Bulls 6-0 the week before last at home. And then this past weekend, as we've been covering, we beat Atlanta 2-0. So 8 in a row on clean sheets, and Leo is going to go ahead and say that at least we will have 11 in a row. You heard it here, You heard it here first, folks. I really like that take, and I hope that it comes true. That's not even when we get into our hot take section. So I don't know how you're going to top that, but I do like to hear it.
I'm just saying, because I'm looking at the schedule, and the opponents that Rowdy's been facing, it seems easy, but they're just in really great form right now. I just don't see it happening unless a tougher opponent, specifically in the top 3 of our division, really face a challenge right now. Because usually we would see it before in the past where a team in the bottom of the league might sneak a goal here and there, but I really just don't see that happening anytime soon. I really don't.
Well, I guess that's fair, and we will test it out over the next.
If we would have seen it, would have happened by now already, but it hasn't, So that's why it kind of, leads me to say that at least 3 more games.
That's true. And I guess this goes back to Neil Collins on the press conferences recently. Another thing that he has told me, he's obviously very impressed with the defensive streak that's going on, although he doesn't really follow it for the streaks. He just goes game by game, as, all coaches and all players will tell you. The one thing that he said is that he expected that there would have been a lot more clean sheets based on the way that the Rowdies had played in previous games. And unfortunately, they didn't all work out that way. So he asked that we who report on the Rowdies remember that when they do give up one goal, don't ask them why is everything different all of a sudden. But I'm sure that we will definitely listen to Neil Collins coming up. Wink, wink. We're going to move on from that, and we're going to go on to a Twitter question that we got. This comes from Lord Pete at MTLoster2222. What about our recent form has made it easier to find goals for Seba after a bit of a drought? Do you think having Santos Steven, which is Big Duba, is the reason, or is Seba just good at finding himself in front of goal at the right time? He has a unique skill for it. What do you think about that, Leo?
Sure. I think that it's a little bit of both. We've seen an example against Atlanta United that Seba's second goal, he was set up by Steven Dos Santos. If you put, and this is like no offense to the person I'm going to name, but if you put Dayon Harris or Jordan Adebayo Smith, they might not, put that ball where Seba is at for that second goal. They might take a shot, or the pass might not be efficient enough. When you have someone like Dos Santos is in good form as well, who knows, who has experience in the league, who knows, who reads defenses really well, and who's good with his passing as well with his shooting. When you have someone like that to pair up with you up top, you're going to get goals because of him, or he's going to get goals because of you. So, it's like a 1-2 combo for these two players. So I would say, Duba does help him. He is one of the reasons. And also, I mentioned it before that Seba, he's just he's a natural goal scorer. He's always in front of goal at the right time. He knows where to be. He knows where the ball will be. And we've seen in that first goal where, you could give credit to Fernandez and Lawrence White setting up that first goal, but that rebound, not many strikers have that knowledge or, that mentality of, I got to be in this position in case something happens. And he was right there. He was surrounded by 2-3 Atlanta United defenders. How was Sebastian Gwenzotti the first one to catch on the rebound? Well, simple. He's just a natural goal scorer.
Yeah, I really like that as well. I think that it's something that, we were taught growing up. There are kind of these players that have an instinct that can't be taught, so to speak, and definitely being in the right place at the right time. You can try and teach that for sure. I think that, you can watch video and you can see when players are most likely to mess up and when, balls coming in are the hardest to deal with because they're coming from this angle or that height. But there's definitely an instinct for it. And I know that based off of what we've seen over not just this year, but all the years in the past, Sebastian Gwenzotti has that instinct. And we're going to get back to him later in this episode. For that, though, we're going to move on to our next question here. And for Leo, I want to start you off with something that is something that we have gone back and forth on, I think, all season at this point.
On the
right. Yeah, exactly. On the right wing back spot, who should be our starter at this point? I think that we have had I think that we might have said mostly Connor Antley over the course of the season. But do you think that maybe Sebastian Dalgaard has snuck in and stolen that starting position?
I do believe Sebastian Dalgaard has snuck in and stole that position from Connor Antley because, don't get me wrong, Connor Antley, whenever he's been playing on the right side, besides that Miami FC game where he just had a game to forget, he's actually been really consistent. He uses his speed, uses his his physical strength to get by defenders, to take on defenders. He's good defensively as well. But the way Dalgaard has been playing, it's almost like he one-upped Antley recently. He's good defensively, puts in good crosses, takes on more than one player. He loves attacking, and he brings a special kind of skill set to his game that helps others get into space or lead to more goal scoring opportunities. And the way he's been playing, I don't see Neil Collins taking him out anytime soon. And we talked about Dalgaard earlier. He's good offensively, but he's also good defensively. He's there when you need him to mark someone. He's there when you need him to cut a pass out. He's just been playing, because we've seen for some quite time where Antley wasn't fit. It wasn't really Dalgaard that would come in. It was Lakawecki for some time. Lakawecki, wasn't really up to the billing. We've seen Deion Harris come in and take his spot. So Dalgard, he kind of had to be patient for his time. And then once his time finally came, he's making the most of it right now. So yeah, at least for right now, I will keep Dalgard in because I think he's in good form as long as with the other Rowdies players who are all on great form as well.
All right. Well, I can't argue with any part of that take. So instead of trying to do that, we're going to go to our next question here. And that is, at this point, playing against Atlanta, they are a team that I do not believe will be in the USL Championship next year. For anyone who is unaware, most of the MLS teams that have reserve teams in this league and in the league below where the Rowdies play, those will disappear. And MLS is getting its own reserve league. I have my thoughts about that, but I suppose we'll have to wait till the offseason to actually get into that specific topic. So for now, we have to kind of look at the players and we, wonder where are these guys going to be next year? And I highlighted some of them last week who ultimately, several of them came off the bench. But, I did have one player that I liked who had started and who I had mentioned before. Are there any players that you saw, Leo, that you thought might look the part coming up next year when we're looking to see, oh, okay, all of these guys are going to be free agents if they're not signing with Atlanta or going to college? What's going to happen?
See, it's kind of hard to answer because, we look at most of MLS reserve teams, they're at the bottom of, most of them are at the bottom of the table in their divisions right now. So does it make it harder on these players to really shine in this league? Yeah, it does. But if I'm picking out certain players just from this Atlanta team, I'm definitely going towards Robbie Mertz. When I've seen him play, he tried to take on Jordan Scarlett a couple of times, but I feel like when he was on the field and Atlanta were having most of possession, he looked like someone who could open up opportunities for Atlanta. He looked like someone who looked like he's been in this league for quite some time, someone who's been a professional player for quite some time. I was really impressed with this game. But again, like I said, these are players who are early in their early 20s or are still teenagers. So it's kind of hard for them to really, be at the same level where you have players who have the experience that they were at that young age. You have players like Gwenzotti, Dos Santos. These are experienced players in the league. So when you have young players like these, like Atlanta United 2 does, it's kind of hard to see if any of them are really up for the billing. And that's because, most of their players, there's one standout, but your other teammates, they might not be up to the bill. So that kind of looks bad on you. But if I had to pick one player who I feel like I have a great career in the USL or any other top division league, I'm going with Robbie Mertz.
Well, that's an interesting point that you just made because actually my answer for this question was definitely also Robbie Mertz. Robbie Mertz was one of the players that I had highlighted last week before this game was actually played as somebody to keep an eye on. I think that he did live up to that, unlike Rocco Rios Novo, which, he's an 18-year-old goalkeeper. It's going to be tough for, anybody in that stage of that particular position to do well, so consistently well and have no mistakes, because if a forward messes up, they do that all the time. They lose the ball all the time. But if a goalkeeper messes up, it's going to be a much bigger problem. So that should be noted. Anyway, to get back to Robbie Mertz, he was previously with Pittsburgh, and he left them this past offseason to join Atlanta. So my thinking is that maybe he is working his way south, and when Atlanta's no longer there, maybe he'll just look even farther south and see what might be over the horizon. And that's what I'm hoping for anyway. So with him covered, we're going to move on to our last question before we hit the man of the match. And who are our preferred substitutions to go in and change the game is the question. Leo, I want you to start this and tell me where you are going specifically with your preferred substitutions and who you want to see in those places.
Sure. Yeah. So the reason why I asked this question is because when I looked at the bench, we've seen players at about Smith, Deion Harris. They didn't really, they didn't at all, come in the game. And the reason this is because, we have a lot of depth in this Rowdies team. We know that. So, for example, let's just go back to the Atlanta United game, 2-0. Who do we sub in? Who do you want to give rest to? Well, obviously, you're going to want to give rest to your main guys. That way they prevent injuries or you get them tired. You prevent them from getting too tired. So when you take out Gwenzotti or Dos Santos, my preferred substitutions, I would like to see more of Adebayo Smith. I thought he's missed some crucial chances this season. He's been known, he probably had more missed opportunities than goals scored, but he's learning. And I feel like the longer you keep him on the bench, the more he won't be able to overcome that. Although it probably doesn't affect him, as much as we think it does. But I would like to see him over Lucky Mkosana. I know I might get some backlash for that, but Lucky is he's on the wrong side of the 30s, I believe. But don't get me wrong, Lucky is still a good player. But if you're the Rowdies, I will get more opportunities towards the young guns, the young guys. If you're up 2-0 against an Atlanta team that's also young, it's a good experience for Ryder Smith to show his talent once again. So I would definitely put him over Lucky. And no disrespect to Lucky, I really like him. He's back from injury. I thought he's been doing really, really good. Again, Antley, Tejada, those other people I would start. And also, Dayon Harris. We haven't seen him in quite some time, but I would like to see him more time on the field, because whenever we went through that little rough patch with, a lot of injuries, Dayon Harris was a bright spot for me. He was someone that was, kept on being in trouble, whether he was playing as a striker or right wing back, until he faced a hamstring injury. I thought he was someone that stood out a lot, someone who was really good. So I will also sub him in. And also, I've been seeing on Twitter a lot, and I would love to see it, not necessarily to get subbed in, but at least start one game, Raiko Arozarena. I would like to see him start at least one game. I know it could be hard to be a backup goalie for, a team in the USL, but I would like to see Raiko, get a chance at a start. But the way Evan Louro is playing right now, I hate to say it, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
The same lines as you are in terms of at the end of a game, when whichever two starters were at the left wing back and right wing back spots, it's good to switch those up, because you bring in somebody fresh and somebody who's probably got more energy than the person who started. And then suddenly they're going at the defender who has been chasing all game with a lot more energy. And I think that that's a really good way to go about that position. Similarly, you do that up top, where you've got players like Duba and Seba, who are often the two starters, and then you want to give somebody a chance to go and run at the defenders that they've been harassing all night. So Jordan Adebayo-Smith is definitely someone that has been noted for his pace. He's played on and off of the wing, which is a place that you need pace. So it would be good to get him out there. And I think that Dayon Harris also brings that. I think that Juan Tejada brings, he does bring the pace that comes with his youth, but I think even more than Juan Tejada's pace, he's a very tenacious player. He loves to get in players' faces, not, in a way that like he's trying to start something maybe, but it is something that he would like to put players off their game and put them under pressure. He will not stop running at you when he's on the field. And I think that if you've got a tired defender and then you've got somebody like Juan Tejada who comes on, I don't know, let's say the 75th minute, and you've got the ball at your feet and he's running at you as fast as he possibly can, you're going to hate your life at that moment. So I think that those are all very good shouts. And then, as you said, Raiko Arozarena getting some time, I would definitely love that. I think that he deserves to get a chance just because he's been plugging away at his position, and he's unfortunately been in the position where he was called up to the Cuban national team when the Cuban national team could not meet to go play its games. And they were supposed to try to qualify for the Gold Cup. Like I said at the time, I believe that they had a chance to do so with probably the best Cuban team in maybe 20, 30 years. But unfortunately, that game never took place, so he couldn't do that. I would love to see him get some time out there. He definitely deserves it. And I know, obviously, Evan Louro, as you said, he's playing lights out. He's got 8 shutouts in a row, which is something we've already talked about. And I think that it'd be very hard to say, any one game is the game that Evan Louro shouldn't play. And this is another unfortunate aspect of not having any games in the Open Cup, because it is often in Cup games where teams will play with their second string goalkeeper starting. Raiko has no benefits going on his side at this point.
Another failure that U.S. Soccer Federation has had on its leagues, right, James?
That's exactly right. But so I think that those are all very good shouts, and I think in particular noting Raiko Arozarena for being the player that he has been to continue all season, making sure that he's prepared, and Ian McGrain when Raiko Arozarena was out on international duty before that Cuba game was canceled. Both of them have been, the consummate professionals that we all hope they would be, and I hope that they do get their reward at some point. So that is definitely a good shout to mention his name. But we have to move on because there's something more important at the moment, and that is naming our man of the match. So, Leo, you went first on the last question. Should I go first on this one? Would that be fair, or
Yeah,
would you
yeah,
like to
yeah.
keep it?
I'll let you have the first shot at it. Go ahead.
The man of the match because both he and Seba got 2 goals and 2 assists, which is quite a record. But I said I had to ding Seba because he started off the game missing a penalty. And that was just kind of for fun and a little bit of a cheeky answer. But this one, I do want to say Seba deserves it both for that week and for this week. He got another 2 goals, and we will touch on him a little bit more in the final part of this episode to mention his current record. But yes, he does deserve it for getting on the end of not 1 but 2 chances and putting them in the back of the net to win us the game.
Yeah, when you have literally a record-breaking game, there's no debate. You're the man of the match. So for me, quite obvious by now, Seba Gwenzotti, he's my man of the match for this game as well.
All right. Well, that was pretty easy, actually. We're going to move instead into the hot takes. And Leo, you can start us off here.
Okay. So, yeah, my hot take of the week is, it's basically what I said before I took my brief break in another country. If anyone in our defensive unit gets injured, things can get ugly for the Rowdies because from what I've been seeing from the Rowdies recently, the key to keeping clean sheets is the chemistry between the back three and the goalkeeper, and even Lewis Hilton, who has been still operating in that role, protecting the back four, but also protecting the back three while also getting up, helping the offensive side of the game. But yeah, the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of communication in that back three. They understand each other. When someone gets out of position, the other one knows where to be. That way they won't get affected too much. And they're all just clicking at the right time. They're clicking at the right time where not that many games are left. Playoffs, before we know it, playoffs are going to be here. So that's why I said, if Aaron Gee, Forrest Lasso, Evan Laurel, Jordan Scarlett gets injured, it may be some tough times approaching for the Rowdies if that happens. If not, I'm not worried.
All right. Well, that is a good point and a good caveat for what we're trying to say here. My hot take, actually, I thought I was coming in with a hot take, and in the end, it seems that Leo wanted to come back and at the same time steal my thunder. I was going to say that the Rowdies should get 9 wins in a row here. I think that the 2 away games that we have coming up, one of which we are going to preview tonight, will be winnable, and then that the third one will be a home game against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh obviously are going to be very difficult, but the fact that it is home, I thought that we were going to win that. Leo one-upped me, and he said that we are going to win all those games with a shutout, or at least get a shutout. I guess you didn't say that we were going to win all those games, but
yeah. If we tied 0-0, still a shutout.
So, yeah, well, that's my hot take, is that I believe we can get those wins, and hopefully we ultimately do. Anyway, that is where we will leave that section and move on to our next one, which is the standings. Leo, do you want to take this and tell us where the Rowdies are in the league?
Of course. So as we all know, no surprise, Rowdies are first in the Atlantic Division. They have 52 points with 24 games. And also, they remain in first in the Eastern Conference. In regards to Atlantic Division, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds are behind us. They do have 47 points, but they have 26 games played. That is 2 more than the Rowdies, so that's definitely our advantage. Another team to keep tabs on is the Miami FC. They have 42 points, 10 less than us, but they do have the same amount of games played, so we have some breathing room right there. We have even breathing room, just in general in the Atlantic Division. The closest team near us is 5 points away, but they played 2 games more than us, so that's perfect right now for the Rowdies, especially heading now to this point of the season. Louisville City FC is the only team that's really threatening us in the Eastern Conference. They do have 47 points, or 5 points away, but they have the same amount of games played, so we have a little bit of breathing room. Not too bad. Legion, they're 41 points from 24 games. Birmingham Legion FC. Like I said, once again, we have some breathing room there, and that's all due to the fact that we're in really good form. We're keeping these clean sheets. Everyone's playing at the level we know they're capable of. So one thing that I do want to mention, Phoenix Rising, they're the only team in the league to have more points than us, and that's only by 1 point. Phoenix Rising has 53 points from 24 games. You know, if we think the Rowdies are in great form, I wonder what's going down over there in Phoenix because they're just doing as good as we are. And El Paso Locomotive FC, they're top of their division in the Mountain Division. They have 46 points from 22 games. So if they win their games in the hand, they'll have the same points as the Rowdies. So something to keep an eye on as well, especially in the Western Conference. Because some teams over there are keeping up with the Rowdies. But yeah, and I guess at this point, it's safe to say that there's only 8 games left for the Rowdies this season.
Yes, 8 games left, and then we will move into the playoffs. So we need to cover one of those games, the game this Saturday night. But it is worth noting that that is the amount of time that the Rowdies have to both maintain a lead above their divisional opponents and obviously try to continue to grow their lead over opponents that are outside of their division as well, so that if it comes down to it, the Rowdies will hopefully have home games throughout the playoffs, because that will obviously really help us. I know that, the Rowdies do have a relatively good record on the road, but everyone knows that the atmosphere at Al Lang Stadium is what contributes a lot to the Rowdies being able to play as well as they have at home, because these fans are singing all game. And I think that, not only does that cheer on our players, but at the same time, it really can get into the heads of the players who are playing against us, especially if it's a goalkeeper who's literally right in front of the Rouse Mob and Skyway Casuals fans. That has got to be a scary place to be.
I'm expecting sold-out crowds for these playoff games.
Yes, exactly. I think that will happen, and I think that we are going to use it to our advantage. So to get into the next game, we are playing Hartford away Saturday night, and it is at 7 p.m. As always, it will be on ESPN Plus if you are not flying up to Hartford, which I am not. So I will be there and taking notes on the broadcast there. Hartford, that is, are 5th place in the Atlantic Division. They have 30 points from 23 games played, and we have both beat each other away from home. The Rowdies also did beat Hartford when we were at home. So we will have to see if we could possibly get 3 wins out of this series of 4 games. That would obviously be beneficial for us in the table, and it would be good for bragging rights. There's only one new signing to report from the last time that we played Hartford. His name is Darwin Lom. Darwin Lom is a player who he was originally from Guatemala, and he went to college here. He was not playing at a professional level until earlier this year. He was actually playing below that, but he was getting call-ups to the Guatemalan national team, including for the Gold Cup, where they replaced Curacao, who had to dip out of the tournament because of a COVID outbreak within their team. Unfortunate for them, but very fortunate for Darwin Lom, who used that play to ultimately earn himself a contract with Hartford. So that is, something that's very cool for him. But at the same time, I can't wish him any luck in this upcoming game. Another player that we need to keep an eye on is somebody that has caught us out at least one time in the past and has been doing very well for himself over the other games in between when we last played Hartford. That is Derek Dodson. Derek Dodson was a college player last year. He was drafted by the Orlando City team, whose name I shouldn't actually have mentioned because they are such rivals. But I guess I slipped up, folks. We'll have to just put that in the rearview mirror. Derek Dodson, though, he is on loan at this level and playing for Hartford. Like I said, we'll have to keep an eye out for him along with a lot of their other attackers. Danny Barrera is another player that we've mentioned in the past. He started very well. He is not quite at the same level as the players who kept up the same statistics as he did to start the season. A lot of people have surpassed him at this point, and that's to our gain in a couple of different players. I think that with the way that things are going right now for us and for Hartford, this should probably still be us expecting a win. And with that, we are going to move into our final section for the preview, which is our predictions. If only Chris were here, because apparently Chris is the best one of us, and he was only on for one show. But we're going to have to make predictions regardless. And Leo, we've gone back and forth now with who's starting what section. So what do you want to do here? Do you want to do the predictions first, or do you want me to do it?
You know what, James? I'm actually feeling confident this weekend, so I'll go first. I do want to mention quickly that Hartford, before Their last win. They did lose 5 in a row. That is a lot, if you ask me. It's not a kind of streak you want to be on. So with that being
It is
said,
not.
I'm gonna go for. I do say clean sheet. I'm gonna go for another 2-0 win for the Rowdies.
2-0 win for the Rowdies. Well, I did not imagine that we would get this many clean sheets, and I did not predict earlier in this episode, like Leo did, that we would get 3 more clean sheets. I do expect, like I said, that we would get 3 more wins. So if you're taking a 2-0, I'm taking a 2-1 win prediction, and at this point, I am expecting that your
How
confidence
dare
will come
you,
through.
James?
Well, that's the thing is every time that I bet recently against Evan Lauro, he seems to show me up, and with the help of Lasso Guillen and Scarlett in front of him, they say that if I'm betting somebody's going to score, I guess it's the same thing. Like I said earlier, when I bet against somebody, I always end up losing. So I'm hoping, for the sake of the Rowdies, that I am wrong here. But you got the 2-0, so I can't take that, and we will move away from our predictions so that hopefully, if you do get it, everybody will forget. Nobody remembers.
Mm. I like that point you made, man. I just want to say best of luck to the both of us this weekend. I can't remember the last time I was right. Actually, I think last time I was right was before I left to Mexico, wasn't it?
It might have been. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe that will be a bad luck charm for you, or maybe it will be a good luck charm for you. We're gonna have to see.
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
So we will move into the last section before we let everybody go, and just a couple more things to hit on. There are 3 more home games after this. Everybody, if you can go to those games, like I said, you definitely should. You should get in some time before the playoffs starts, and I think that the playoff games obviously are going to be as big as they will be, but it's always good to be there when you're always good to be there ahead of time, because you can not only get into the atmosphere and learn how that works, but you can kind of see exactly what the Rowdies are going for on the field a little bit better than just listening to us, or when you're watching on the broadcast and you can only see a little bit of the field. I definitely like the home games when I can attend them. And we should mention Sebastian Gwenzotti one more time on this show tonight. Sebastian has scored 2 braces in a row, and he ultimately sits on 14 goals this season. That is second in the whole league behind Haji Berry, who has just run away with it and has 23. And it is actually tied with Russell Cicerone, who I believe has played more games. In addition to that, he was named the USL Championship Player of the Week. So congratulations to him for that achievement. And I think it is well-deserved, obviously, for his last couple of games, and especially this one where he got another double. With all of those goals, Gwenzotti now has 49 for the Tampa Bay Rowdies overall. That moves him ahead of Rowdies legend Rodney Marsh. Rodney Marsh had 48 goals, and he is second, therefore, of all time for the Rowdies behind Georgi Hristov. Georgi Hristov had 58 goals. So another 10, and Sebastian Gwenzotti will actually be the all-time leader. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to bet against him to do that. And that is the fantastic Sebastian Gwenzotti for you guys.
And what's crazy is that there's 8 games left. Man, you count the playoffs. I think it's plenty of time for Sebastian Gwenzotti to, by the end of the season, to be the all-time goal scorer for the Rowdies, if you ask me.
Well, with the amount of games that we have left and the playoffs, as you said, because we can't forget that the Rowdies are bound to get into the playoffs, that's definitely going to be a lot of games. And if he is scoring 2 goals a game, he could do it in 5 at this point. But
Yep.
Maybe I won't go so far as to bet that he'll do that.
We'll see. Obviously, if he doesn't, it's not a failure. He's doing a lot for this club right now. He's made a lot of noise for this club. A lot of fans are getting more into the Rowdies community, and it's because maybe a big reason could be part of Sebastian Gwenzotti and what he's doing on the field for this team. Even if he doesn't, I do think eventually he will overcome the record for the all-time goal scorer for the Rowdies. But like you said, James, a big congratulations to Seba for everything he's doing, all the records he's breaking, and he's just doing everything great at the right time.
Yep. And while we're talking about records, there's one more to mention. The Rowdies posted their 8th straight shutout, which is something that we had mentioned earlier. This extends their streak without conceding a goal to a record-breaking 801 minutes. So that beats the previous USL Championship record of 759 minutes. That was set by Rio Grande Valley FC back in 2016. It took that long for somebody to break the record, and it was the Rowdies. So if we go on and we live up to Leo's prediction, I think that we're going to have a very long-lasting record ahead of us.
So let's hope they do live up to my prediction.
Yes, I agree, because that would be absolutely amazing to end out this season. But that is going to do it for us tonight, listeners. Thank you for tuning in as always. We want to thank you for following us on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. Of course, you can get that there. You can reach out to me specifically if you would like to do so on Twitter at RBLRJamesK. So where can they speak with you if they have anything to say?
Yeah, you can interact with me, tag me, or ask any questions, anything like that. Whether it's Rowdies or any kind of soccer related, you can find me on Twitter at _Leo Santos __.
So again, that is 2 underscores. Do not forget. And this is a free podcast. We don't have any, Patreon or anything right now. All that we want to ask of you guys is obviously please follow and subscribe to us on the different social medias, whichever one you might use. And then also at Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, or YouTube, and all other major podcast platforms that you might use. Please do like and subscribe to us there. We definitely appreciate it. That should wrap it up for us tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like James said, thank you. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, and thank you, listeners, for your time. And it's great to be back alongside my amazing co-host James. So without further ado, let's go Rowdies, and come on you Rowdies.
Come on you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.